Hello and welcome to As Someone Who Doesn't Read Comics. I'm Becca.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Brian, and we're here to make you think about death and get sad and stuff.
We are sex baba. No, we're not. But
No.
I wish we were. That'd be awesome.
I can play an instrument.
I can too. Let's do this.
Oh, I can pretend.
You can sing.
Ooh, there you go. We got a whole thing going now.
I think we need drums.
Oh, we do.
When I said instrument, I meant not drums.
Well, now I've got that clarified. That's good, because otherwise that would.
We read Scott Pilgrim this week.
In case it wasn't obvious.
Yes. So, in case you didn't read the header or listen to our last podcast. So we read, and by reading Scott Pilgrim, we read all of Scott Pilgrim, which is 6 volumes, and they are large volumes.
I'm holding them up to the internet, which I realize is rather visual, but there are 6 of them. So.
It's impressive, too.
Yeah.
That's a lot of volumes to hold up.
How are you holding those all in one hand? I mean, that's...
I know.
Now he's juggling them.
Skill. You need to put hours in. What? Oh, almost. Oh. Here.
He's lit them on fire and is eating them.
I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball on that one. I tried to make it sound like I was eating a book, but didn't want to actually shove the books into my mouth. So I tried to make it. I let that one fall apart. Anyway, yeah. So Scott Pilgrim, we read all of it.
Disclaimer: we do not. You shouldn't juggle books
Or
burn them or eat them while they're burning. That is very dangerous. Please don't do it. Even though we did, because we're cool. Totally did it.
Have our word on it.
Yeah, we're totally badass enough to do this, but you're not.
Woo woo.
Yeah, it's like Mythbusters.
Don't try this at home. We're professionals.
Yep. So, now back to a podcast. Scott Pilgrim, is an independent comic. So it's done by Oni Press.
Oni Press, yep.
Yep. So, and it is one of the, I think it's the only one. Yes, it's the only one, that was written and drawn by Brian Lee O'Malley, the same author and drawer, artist. That's the
word.
That's the
I like
profession.
drawer.
Drawer. Yeah. He's a professional drawer.
Well, it rhymes better with author. No, it doesn't rhyme actually at all.
Drawer, author. Slant rhyme.
Slant rhyme.
You get some English majors to back you up on that, probably.
Maybe.
You know, if you.
And then the rest of the universe to just kind of be like slant rhymes don't exist.
Girl, world. So it's slant rhymes.
It's been done a ton. Yeah.
Slant rhymes.
Can we start a rap group called Slant Rhymes?
And rhyme only in slant rhymes?
Yes.
That would be difficult.
Oh my god.
I think Weird Al wrote a song about it called Word Crimes.
No.
No, I don't
think
think at all.
That's not that what it's about at all. It's it's about proper pronunciation and grammar. Yeah. But.
Like slant rhymes.
Well, slant rhyme should be a word crime.
No, it's not. It's an art. Okay. Well,
Poetry!
We have gone.
We haven't even gotten into the book yet.
I know.
Oh,
I didn't even get to tell them that our podcast is divided up into sections. One section is story, the other section art, and spoilers, which we will warn you before we say spoilers. But we will not spoil anything in the previous 2 sections. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, story.
All right. So, the story, we're going to focus largely on Volume 1 and some of Volume 2, because we figure that's a good spot to, hopefully by that point you'll know if you want to pick it up and read it with us or not. So, all right, the story of Scott Pilgrim is basically, the best analogy for it is if someone took a 20-something that grew up in like the 80s, 90s era with like all of the pop culture references that entails, and they lived their life as if their life was kind of like a video game. It's the kind of setting. And that setting is Toronto, Canada.
The best settings for video games.
Of course. I mean, everyone's played,
I feel like this is what Toronto actually has to be, because otherwise nobody else would live there.
Oh, man. Wow.
I don't know.
I'm a page one.
I live in America. I don't really think I want to be there. I mean, I've heard Toronto's nice. They got
it's really cold,
clean streets and less crime.
And people explode into quarters.
Yeah, well, if you beat the crud out of somebody, you want them to explode into money. I would.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason why you would get into a fight. That's what I assumed, like all those schoolyard bullies. It's always like, give me your lunch money or I'll beat you up. Well, obviously, they have no choice. If you don't give them money, they have to beat you up until you become money. That's just bullying 101.
That's how it works.
I assume. I don't know.
Not having been a bully.
I read a book on it.
Yeah,
it's legit.
I have once. Yeah. That's just how it goes. So.
Toronto,
Toronto, Canada. basically, it starts off, our hero is Scott Pilgrim, who is 23 years old, because that's on the second page, it's very heavily emphasized. He's in a band with some of his friends. Their band is called Sex Babam, hence our really clever reference at the beginning of the podcast. With drummer Kim Pines, the talent, I'm doing air quotes, the talent, and guitar player Stephen Stills, and young Neil, who is just kind of there. And
They're roadie?
yeah,
Kinda?
I got kind of.
He's just there.
Yeah.
He's young Neil.
He's young Neil. And it starts off, it's honestly, the story of Scott Pilgrim is just Scott is dating a high schooler named Knives Chow, which is a wonderful name.
The best name.
It is such a great name. And his life is going along as he's trying to get over, he had a bad breakup with a girl named Envy Adams, who, it was a very bad breakup, so this is kind of like his rebound date. Until he meets, in his dreams, a girl named Ramona Flowers. And Ramona is for lack of better terms, a hipster chick. Again, I'm doing a lot of air quotes, and it's not very visual, but we'll keep going along with it. Like the dyed hair, she's got rollerblades, she has that air of just, I'm over all this, too cool for everything. And Scott instantly falls head over heels for her because he saw her in his dream. And it becomes his life's mission to find out how to get in touch with her and to hopefully go on and date her. So, after ordering, the whole thing is just a ton of jokes. I don't want to spoil a lot of the jokes, but basically, Scott lives in a small, I guess, apartment. It's kind of a weird shack-like thing next to other houses that look quite normal, with his gay roommate, Wallace Wells, who might be the best character in the books.
I love Wallace.
Wallace is awesome, because Wallace just points out Scott's kind of flaky and basically an idiot. Like, he asks at one point, what's the website address for Amazon.ca? Which is Amazon.ca, which
That's
would
what
be, it would be, that's the .com up in the Great White North. That's what we're talking about up there. I had to do one Canadian thing. I didn't earlier. I didn't when we talked about Toronto, but I had to do an about. Don't you know? That's Minnesota. All right, anyway. Basically, anywhere north to me is just going to be the same basic. All right. Anywho, so, Scott, because he's kind of an idiot, finally gets in touch with Ramona and gets her to go on a date with him, but neglects to break up with Knives Chow, which leads to this whole awkward, wonderfully done love triangle event as Scott's trying to juggle the girl that he's kind of obligated to be with because he's too afraid to break up with her, and Ramona, who's the girl he wants to be with and is really cool and awesome, but he can't be with her until things are done with Knives. Which, this all sounds kind of like, okay, Paul, why are you telling me all this random stuff? That's not much of a story. What's going on here? And I'm going to say, well, just wait, dear listener, and or fellow reader of this book. This is where it gets good. It turns out that Ramona, as part of her too cool for school tortured past, actually her love life is ruled by a league of evil exes. So, a league of evil ex-boyfriends that comes in and sets the course of her love life, which Scott was warned about. They are very fair and upfront with it. He gets numerous emails about it, but being an idiot, he does not read them all the way. There's even a handwritten letter that is delivered to his house, which he ignores because it's boring. And
There's
so
words, there's no pictures.
Exactly, which the exact opposite of the thing that we
are reading.
Yeah, no, the book
Which-
has very many pictures.
I just wanted to clarify, because if you're picking up a graphic novel and there's
You would
no
expect graphics.
yeah, otherwise it's just a novel. And I mean,
No.
And who wants to read that?
right? High school English teachers up top. Oh yeah, yeah,
High five.
yeah. High fives all around. Weird. So anyway, so the basic gist of basically each volume is Scott is trying to build on his relationship with Ramona. There's a lot of in-game references to video games. For example, even their band name Sex Babam is a reference, of course, to Mario on the Nintendo where there's bombs or the little cute explosives that kind of walk around. The finale, actually, of the Mario Brothers movie was a bomb. Just trying to throw that out. Fun little bomb facts, which are not required.
You're blowing my mind, Paul.
I'm blowing your mind, right? Ba-boom. Oh, that wasn't even intentional. Just So,
bring in the blamp.
Oh,
Nah.
no.
Nah,
I'm
I
Sit
killed
down.
it.
I'm sorry. It's
Killed
okay.
it.
I mean, it's good. Someone had to. Otherwise, we'd
Blow
just
up that plot line.
Oh, okay. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. You're making me sad now. don't make the internet sad.
If I
I'm
keep
not
going, maybe you'll blow a fuse.
Oh my god. No. I mean, it's getting funnier again as we do it longer, but it's also dragging this out. So, for the sake of time, I will finish up, volume 1, which ends in the culmination of Scott convincing Knives to come with him to see his band play, also invites Ramona to meet up with him there to prove that he's cool, forgetting that now both of them are going to be in the same place and expecting to talk to him. Fortunately, any kind of revelation is interrupted by the arrival of Matthew Patel, the first of Ramona's evil ex-boyfriends. And this is where this sort of I don't want to say supernatural, but I guess what's the right word for this?
No, it's
sort of
I mean,
supernatural. There's a word I'm trying to
It's
think
like
of.
saying like Superman supernatural.
Yeah, it's not quite.
It's not quite, but it's.
I don't want to say otherworldly. I guess I'll say out of the ordinary. This is where the out of the ordinary video game comic media thing comes in. It turns out that Matthew Patel actually has magic powers and is able to summon demon hipster chicks to attack Scott and his band on stage. So
Although the fighting before that's even semi weird because it's just all of a sudden they start fighting and doing these big punches and kicks and everything, and you're like, wow, they can fight for no real reason. But then it's kind of added into the storyline, but it was something that wasn't mentioned before.
Oh yeah, it just kind of shows up all of a sudden. Oh, I guess the police aren't coming. This is gonna be, normally this kind of thing is frowned upon, but hey, why not? There's so many great jokes. When we get into spoiler stuff, I'm gonna have to. It's gonna just be all
after the quick synopsis.
Yeah, I think spoilers is just us recalling jokes
because they're so good. But yeah, so the first volume, Matthew Patel and Scott go into this big thing, the big brawl. Fireballs are thrown, flashbacks are had, some good backstory stuff, and Scott manages to emerge victorious, and he he turns into $2.10.
Matthew Patel.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Matthew Patel, after being beaten up, is turned into $2.10.
Not even enough for bus fare.
Exactly. It's also Canadian money.
So that's like half a nickel.
Right. Well,
I don't think it's that much.
But another fun side Canadian fact. They have a dollar coin called the loonie, which I think is great because we need better currency names here. From now on, I'm going to call all quarters, let's see, George Washington said baldies, because George Washington says baldies. No. Does it work?
We're gonna do it now.
We'll try. Okay, we're working on it. Anyway, so Matthew Patel is defeated, on the train ride home, which Ramona had to help Scott pay for because Matthew Patel didn't explode into enough money to pay for the fare. They kiss, and Ramona reveals that there's still, there's a whole basic league of evil exes out there, and her last ex, was someone named Gideon. And when Scott tries to discuss Gideon with her, her head starts to, irradiate or glow, and her eyes get wide, and it's a kind of a weird ending, honestly. It's kind of like, oh, well, that's unnatural. Which, if you hadn't just had Fireball summoning demon people,
fight thing,
yeah,
that would be a little weirder.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the first volume, and I wasn't funny in retelling it, but if you pick it up, there's just jokes and references to things. There's references that I didn't even get, when I was going through it, and I had to look back at it again. So yeah, I guess, where I'll leave off our brief synopsis is Volume 2 is Scott trying to figure out how he's going to break things off with Knives now that, he and Ramona have kissed. It's like, well, looks like my feelings are reciprocated. How am I going to break this off without me ending up in a world of hurt? From
someone named Knives.
Which, fun fact, I guess that's not a fun fact, more of a word of advice. Don't date anyone whose name is a sharp object.
Including knives, machete, crossbow.
Mm-hmm. There was actually, there was a girl in high school named Fork, which she had that could be turned into, I'm sorry, this is all a fake story, and I'm just gonna drop it, cause I realized I should have chosen a better sharp object that had less obvious jokes.
She'll stab you 4 times as much.
Right. Prong. I could have gone with literally anything. I don't know. I chose fork and then realized, that sounds like a naughty word, which could be added to layers of humor right in me. All right. Joke dropped. Point is, I don't care if it's a nickname or a real name. Don't date anyone whose name is a sharp object.
I mean, I feel like if it's a real name, it's slightly safer than a nickname, because you probably got the nickname from handling knives. Like, from infamously handling knives.
That's Joan Stabby Smith over there.
Yeah, like...
No. How'd Joan get that name? Well, yeah, it's never a good story at that point.
You see, she's really good at peeling oranges.
Do you need a knife for that? Potatoes would work. True. I don't want to tell you how to peel your oranges.
Yeah, especially since Joan's the best there is.
I really want to have a friend named Joan now.
Joan Stabby Smith?
Well, no, God, no, I don't really want no, the whole point was not to interact with those people. And also to talk about comic books, which we have not been doing and it's,
get so far into this and not talk about anything.
We've talked about plenty.
I guess, there's just so many, a lot of it, it's a very, it's slice of lifey, in all honesty,
yeah.
for all the out of the box magic fights, kung fu battles, it's very slice of life, like, just.
Yeah, it's an up, like, cause I mean, like, there's like the, the teen novels where everybody reads about, like, I don't know, some girl who's down on her luck and meets some guy. Like, that's basically the story, except it's a lot more upbeat and it's a lot more interesting and it's got all the video game references, so it makes it fun and interesting to listen to. And then there's fight scenes and magic summonings and it's awesome. So it's just a really cool, it just relates very well to people at that age.
Yeah. And then there's just useless conversations that are really fun and exciting, like, Wallace yelling at Scott for not enjoying bacon.
Ah, yes, which is...
You don't need that, but you need that.
It
just develops the characters and their interactions together so well. It's ridiculous. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, it's also, I guess, it's really nice coming off of Watchmen to reading Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, yeah.
Because, oh my god, whereas Watchmen was so heavy and just dark, this is upbeat and fluffy. Technically, you could argue that Matthew Patel gets murdered. Like, straight up beaten to death. But he just explodes into coins like a video game, so hey!
Yeah, in the same way that Goombas get murdered. It's like, no, they poof. Like, it's
okay. It's not as traumatizing when they poof.
Police apparently don't come after those type of crimes. Yeah. So, it's all good. Or the
brawls, or...
What are the Canadian police?
Mounties.
The Mounties. We didn't see any Mounties in here, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. Let's see. We mentioned Mounties, Loonies, Toronto. I said a boot.
These are like all of the things I know about
Canada. I'm hungry.
Canada.
Does anybody have any poutine?
Ooh, good poutine.
I feel like anything named poutine I wouldn't want to eat.
Makes me think of Russia more than Canada currently. That's just due to political events.
No, I enjoy the book. Yeah, the storyline's really, I like the character development even in the short time that it comes up, and it's not shoved at you in such a way where it's like, here's character development, look at this. It's like, oh, we're having a regular conversation or a normal day. Oh, like you're picking up your girlfriend, but we're having a conversation in such a way that I now understand the relationship between Scott and Wallace. Like it's so cool how the dialogue can be interesting, funny, and also very well delivered. Who the characters are, how they interact with each other. It's really, I like it. I like it a lot. And a lot of the stuff's funny. A lot of the interactions, like Knives first hearing, Scott's band and her, like, eyes start, like, just growing bigger and grow stars in them. And she's like, oh, they're so awesome. Like, but you she doesn't say that, but you assume it because it's just the way that it is. It's really cool. I like it.
Yep. Speaking of art, art's really good.
Are we? We're not still doing story? Okay, art.
Oh, no, it was a good segue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm ruining your segues. No, art. Art is good. I like art. Yep.
Art is fun.
Now, was that
art
you saying
over.
Are you okay with the art section starting now, or is that more of just art's a good thing? I appreciate it in this world.
Both. No, Brian Lee O'Malley's a good artist. I like him.
Yeah. It's he's got a very distinct style to it, but it's not quite anime-esque.
It's very cartoony, but it's still got elements from both.
Yeah, because some of the faces, some of the mouths get very gigantic,
anime large, but anime doesn't have the large bulging eyes that he does. So it's a nice mixture of the both to get the emotions of the situation through, which is cool. And yet everybody doesn't look. Nobody looks. It's not cartoony in the way that everybody looks abnormally not human. They're very very well proportioned human-esque figures, just simpler, just cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody looks very normal. People have age.
Yeah.
You can tell, even just by looking at, two characters, it's Steven Stills is older.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
For as simplistic as the style is, because there's not a lot of detail on faces or anything like that, but for as simplistic as it is kind of easy to figure out who's who. And it's also very easy because, most comic books, a character would keep their hair the same throughout the whole book, but Ramona definitely changes her hair constantly, and Scott even gets a haircut at a point. And you still, obviously the main characters, so whatever. Even knives get a haircut.
Yeah.
You still can tell who they are. It's not, it doesn't, you don't go automatically oh, that's a new character.
Their facial features are their facial features.
Still. So it's still, yeah.
One other thing I really liked, is in all the volumes, they do have flashbacks, and the flashback pages are outlined in black, as opposed to the just kind of whatever colors happen to be on the edges, which is a nice touch in a black and white comic, that it's you're flipping through, and you never go into a flashback and get lost, well, wait, what? What is happening? Because it's clearly marked, oh, this must be a flashback. All of the surrounding panels are now black, which,
And then depending on the age of the flashback, the art style was slightly different.
Yes.
Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
Ramona reckons back to a time when she was a little kid, and it's drawn like a 5-year-old would draw with cartoons.
Crayons and stuff.
It's crayon-y and...
I also, just to mention, we did read I know the color version is out, I think for all of it. Maybe up to volume 5. It might be. I think 6 is coming out soon.
Yeah.
We read the black and white completely, so there is a color version. So we'll be talking about it and be Ramona's hair was gray, it's because we're reading the black and white version and not the colored version.
Or we're colorblind. We don't know yet.
One of those.
One of the two. But yeah, I agree. One last thing about the art. I was surprised about the amount of things about the art. Their motion looks like motion. There's a lot, because it's got that kind of a cartoony style, there's the lines to show motion are over entire pages. So when someone is swinging, a weapon or doing a really hard kick, it looks like there's a lot of power behind it, because the entire panel... I'm showing things again. This at least is to actually There's a lot of actual...
Paul is holding up a book, and we are looking at it.
Yeah, yet again, it's so... I'm amazed by how simplistic this art style is, and yet somehow it conveys an intense amount of motion, it conveys emotion, it conveys so much just through this very, very simple art style.
Other professional comic artists, get on this.
Wow, we do just
so many people.
I'm saying that this is really good, and that people should be using this as the example, and not the exception.
I can agree where there's a lot of, I've said it before, where there's a lot of panels on comics where I feel like like, this is almost a still I mean, obviously it's a 2D picture, but this is a still frame of something happening as opposed to, I can't feel the motion of it, and yeah, that bothers me when it's like, oh, he's punching, but it feels like he's literally standing there going for a punch as opposed to punching.
Yeah, no, this feels very fluid.
Yeah, fluid is a good word.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
That's artsy. I guess,
Brian Lee O'Malley he's a very talented man. Yep. They're a good writer. I like the writing styles. I like the jokes. I like the writing. I like the art.
Hell of an artist.
Good guy. Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he's got a fun name too. Yeah, you complimented everything else he did. Wow, he's got a good name.
Alright.
Yep. Yeah. Spoilers.
I guess, spoilers.
Yeah, that's
ahead.
the intro to the spoiler section.
That's where we should talk about all the things we liked past this point. Because there's a lot of things to reference. It's
spoilers.
Just,
Spoilers.
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 Soylent Green is people.
I was about to like yell at you, but like,
yeah.
Brian, like, could you please say a spoiler? I want to stop saying spoilers.
It's really, I whispered one. That was probably going to be weird. There was, all right.
For those of you who feel uncomfortable with Paul whispering in your ear.
Hey. I haven't gotten any complaints yet.
Email us complaints. We'll talk about it on the podcast.
Oh, that would be terrible.
Email us your complaints about Paul whispering.
No! I'll just do it more. Oh, that sounded creepy. I don't like that whisper. That whisper was forced and it came across as rather confrontational and threatening, which it kind of was. Alright!
Yeah, series was good. I wanted to mention one thing, which is, I know Brian and Paul read this series before. I know Paul read it before the movies came out. I forget if Brian read it before or after the movies came out.
No, I saw the movies and watched it after.
Okay. I obviously watched the movie, and then it's been a while. I watched the movie, and then it's been a while, and I just read the books not too long ago. And the first book is scene for scene pretty much the movie, which can be kind of disappointing, because you can almost go like, well, why am I reading this? But it changes so much. Like, the book does not follow that movie at all from here, and it gets better, I would say, than the book in most aspects. So, just a forewarning, if you're like, volume 1, you're the movie. Like, keep reading.
Yeah, because then volume 2 and 3 starts to deviate and it gets much, much better than the movie.
Yeah, and then 4, 5, and 6 is just...
6 is like miles... Well, yeah, 6 is miles
different.
away better than the ending for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's
also,
a shame that movie died off at the end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if the final book was written...
I don't know. I don't think it was written before the movie. Well,
or
I mean, like...
it was in the works.
Yeah,
it wasn't,
like, it wasn't actually out when they were writing the movie. So, like...
And you don't want to spoil at the end of your own book series.
Which I don't, I don't get why you would make a movie before things were... Whatever. I don't get why you would make a TV series before the TV. Game of Thrones.
Oh.
I was waiting for somebody.
I wasn't sure where we were going with that, because I mean, there's a couple of them that did that.
There's a couple of them, actually. Game of Thrones just being the most recent. But yeah, no. From here on out, just got it. A lot of it, I mean, the main thing, the driving force kind of the comic is Scott fighting Ramona's evil exes. Basically is kind of the driving factor of just keeping Scott moving forward in the relationship. But a lot of it does have to do, like, I mean, it's cool that a lot of it deals with Scott's actual relationship with Ramona. It's not just, hey, I'm fighting your evil exes, you love me now. Like, there's a lot of interactions and a lot of things that Scott does wrong and a lot of things that Ramona does wrong that they clean up and get better. You know, like, they evolve as characters and their relationship evolves, which is nice.
Yeah, it's kind of like each evil ex he defeats is like another milestone, stepping stone point in their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and he learns like a little bit more each time.
Yeah. What's also cool though is that like Matthew Patel kind of shows up and then gets like punched out pretty quick. But by the time you get to X's like 3 and 4, you start getting backstory and flashes of not only the relationship that they had with Ramona, but also more about themselves. And, like, some of them aren't, like, terrible people. They're interesting. I mean, I guess they're not great people because they joined a league of people just to control someone else.
Yeah, I guess.
So, okay, I take back they're great people. You know, they're not half bad. They're still bad people, but...
They're people who had their heart broken by Ramona, which, you know, it's yet again just continuing on their storylines and evolving their relationships that were once with Ramona.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yes, we can talk about some of like the characters that we can show up. I'll go through the X's. I always like them. There was so you have Matthew Patel was Evil X number 1. That involved. But we're in spoiler territory. I can just list these, which are good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lucas Lee was Evil X number 2, who's like a movie star skateboarder kind of. Which
he's
kinda...
easily the most boring of the Evil X's.
I still liked.
He was one of the more human though. Like
definitely more human. I also liked. I liked that it started because Matthew Patel, Scott just straight up beats the crud out of, like actually punches and does stuff too. But Lucas is the first one he beats Scott, and Scott has to run away and then come back and outsmarts him, which is cool because it shows that like Scott's not just going to kick the crud out of everything. He's going to use all the resources that he can to get rid of all these evil X's, which is cool. I like that. You know, it's not just. It adds the variety to defeating the evil X's.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the third one, which is one of my favorites. Most of them are. Todd Ingram, who has psychic powers because he is a vegan.
Which is great.
Which because his mind is uncluttered by curds and whey, he is able to achieve enlightenment and psychic powers. And what's also great about Todd, which makes him interesting, is that Todd, who's Ramona's ex, is dating Envy. Natalie, I think was her real name.
Natalie's her
Natalie,
real name.
Yes.
But she goes by Envy Adams, who is Scott's ex, the one who broke Scott's heart and is the whole reason why he was in like this downward spiral for a while that you learn about. And their backstory gets fleshed out really well. It's a really, like, that's what I mean. Even the background, I don't want to say background, but supporting characters have like this really great built up background with Scott, and it's really well done. Then you've got fourth, Roxy Richter, right? Richter is the last name.
Yeah.
I said
so,
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Who is actually a girl and was one of, I think it was when Ramona was in college. They dated. I think that's what they said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When Ramona was in college, which her death is also one of, she explodes like Sonic the Hedgehog animals.
Oh, yeah.
Which as someone who,
Which is great.
yeah, I love
As someone who owned a Genesis.
Yeah, I was one of those people. I owned a Genesis, and I can say that's how that went down when you're saving the world as a hedgehog. And like Ramona actually moves in with Roxy for a little bit too, which was interesting. Then you have the twins, whose names I don't remember. I just remember them as the twins.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I was like,
not a lot.
I mean, they weren't the best. I like their issue 5.
Is it
issue 5, I
Yeah.
think, yeah. Because 4 is Roxy.
Yeah,
Roxy,
4 is Roxy. I'm going through the wrong volume.
That would, yeah. But, their volume, they themselves aren't overly well developed, but they have a lot of flashbacks in that volume, which works out really well.
Kyle K and Ken K.
Okay.
Handsome Jerk and Perfect Asshat. They're,
monikers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But no, they're more there just to abduct Kim and then flesh out that backstory.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, there's so much. We could ramble about this for hours. That's why I'm trying to stick to characters first, just to get all that out there. And then last but not least is Ramona's last ex, which is, Gideon.
Gideon Gordon Graves.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like, that's such
So
a great
many
name.
Gs.
So many G's.
GGG.
Your way was better. But yeah, who Gideon, it's revealed, started up the whole League of Evil X's to kind of abduct and control Ramona, because he has this issue. I'm going to call it an issue, and it's really a lot creepier than that, but I'm going to say,
Yes.
I'm going to
Kidnapping.
say bad habit of kidnapping and freezing.
Cryogenically freezing his ex-girlfriend.
Because he needs to talk to someone
about this. Although he apparently makes a lot of money, so I mean...
Yeah, that's true.
So that gives him the right to abduct
No,
people.
it doesn't, but I'm just saying.
Well, I'm just saying
He's
it's
a
kind
rich
of
person, apparently.
Yeah,
who opens a club, and that's why we see him. But
Yeah.
Oh, and is also in with Envy. I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah,
there,
Envy's performing for him, and they may or may not be
doing together a couple. I don't know. I have no idea.
That is the best
Doing
way I've
together
ever...
a couple.
That is... I want to say that instead of dating from now on, because it makes you think you're going to go one way and then you're not. Doing together a couple. Like, yes, that grammatically makes sense.
In no way whatsoever.
None. You too can play along by referring to relationships as doing together a couple.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
So, anyway, yeah, so that's the basic list, rundown, doobly-doo, of the X's.
Yes.
Which, are really great. They're all fun, and they have their own quirks, and most of them lead to some great dialogue and jokes and puns. I'm gonna flip through here. Take a book. We'll find some random stuff. I think it's fun.
Are we just going?
I don't know.
for,
while you guys
for
talk, I'm
quotes
gonna
now?
find one.
I still think, yeah.
I'm gonna find one.
Like, I still think my favorite one was, I still like Lucas, like, for as much as Lucas Lee didn't do much, I still love that basically Scott tricked him into, he was like, I bet you can't grind that railing. He's like, that railing's forever long, it's impossible. He's like, impossible. Yeah. And that's all he says, and then Lucas Lee's like, no, I'm doing this. And then, like, super speeds into coins. Like, he dies from going too fast, which I thought was just funny. I liked it. And yet again, it just showcased, like, a lot of it, for as much as, like, the movie pretty much made it like he fights and that was it. But in a lot of these, he fights and finds his inadequacies in fighting and either needs help from people or needs to train harder. So it's kind of cool with that. I like that a lot with, like Todd, right? The vegan?
Yeah, Todd.
Yes.
Yep, Todd's the vegan.
He meets up with him and fights him like 3 different times.
Yeah.
And can't beat him.
Yeah.
And then Todd eats gelato.
And then he needs some last minute, what's the quote? Last minute, something Deus Machina.
Yes. Okay, so after failing, like a music showdown with Todd, because they're both bass players in their respective bands, Scott says, I can't even get near him. I need some kind of, like, last minute, poorly set up Deus Ex Machina.
And then all of a sudden the
Stop,
vegan
vegan police.
Freeze.
Vegan police! Which, Todd Ingram, you're under arrest for veganity violation. Which ends up that he said...
Has eaten chicken and... Well, he admits
Chicken's
to eating...
not vegan?
What did he eat before? A gelato?
Yeah.
Gelato.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he ate a gelato before, so he obviously knew that he was not eating correctly, but, it was like, chicken's not vegan, or I forget what...
my favorite part is the fact that Envy is the one who's confused about what it takes to be a vegan. Because, hey,
Well, I think
hang on, are you saying gelato isn't vegan? It contains milk and eggs, ma'am. And then she sits there, is chicken parmesan vegan?
Because I like the first when he's like, I'm gonna get gelato, and she's like, what's that? He's like, it's a vegan thing. She's like, it's nasty, I'm not gonna eat it. Like, I'm just like, yes. But yeah, I love...
Might as well.
There's so many, and he gets hit with a de-veganizing ray, which allows Todd to, Scott to I was like, whoa, that's not right. Scott to headbutt Todd into a ton of coins and gave him an extra life, which ends up being crucial when he gets murdered later on.
I just love how it like pops up and they're like, what's that? And he's like, it's an extra life. And he's like, oh, okay.
It's an extra life. I think it's extra life. Oh, it's scaring me.
Cause it's his face. And he's like, what? I love that. There's later in the book, I forget which X it is that he never makes it to, but he's like, what's that glowing spot over there? And they're like, it's a save state. Like, what? It's so random because like this book is like, oh, look at him dealing with his relationship problems in a normal way. Oh, there's a save spot over there. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which, I'm gonna be honest, real life had save spots. That would be awesome.
Oh my god, if real life had save states, I'd be save scumming all day.
Yeah. Although, in Resident Evil, that would make your game harder. So, yeah, you have to be careful.
You better hope this isn't Resident Evil.
Are there zombies on your way to work, Brian? There's
plenty of zombies at work.
I was gonna say, are there higher ups that seem like they would be likely to unleash a viral plague upon a small rural town?
Already done.
feel like I should know
So
this.
I feel like it shouldn't be Resident Evil. Let's not be a video game.
I've changed my mind. I don't like this. But yeah, so like there's so many things.
And just even the jokes I love so much. Yeah,
Oh,
like chicken
Scott and
parmesans, not chicken parmesans.
Scott and Wallace. Just the dialogue between them every time is always golden.
Yeah.
Even the first time Wallace comes in, it's like, guess who's strong? Wallace is. You're right.
Like, and there's so like the development of, like, for as much as I'm never usually a big fan of like relationship problem storylines, but it's done so well where, you know, like Ramona gets mad at Scott, so she goes live with Roxy for a bit, and Scott, like, this old, friend from, who used to be friends in school comes back, and she's like, I think I like you, Scott, but then, like, he's like, no, I love Ramona, like, that's it. Like, it's so cool, and then he discovers the power of love and rips a sword out of his chest. It's great. Like, the storyline is so compelling, and it's like, I don't get bored of the relationship issues. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, that's my other favorite part of this book. When Wallace is like, have you told her the L word? Lesbians?
No,
love.
Love Scott. But, how could I forget him? Oh my gosh. Knives Chow's dad, so Mr. Chow, he finds out that Knives is dating Scott, and he doesn't approve. So he chases down Scott and tries to kill him with a samurai sword.
It's great.
Which is just absolutely wonderful.
And not the strangest thing to happen in this book.
Yeah,
No.
that's the best
It
part.
like cuts like a whole bus in half at
Which
some
is
point.
just great. There's so much collateral damage that just
Those
no one
people
sees-
died.
Yeah, that's probably. And then at the very end, after seeing Scott fight, Knives' dad, like, approves and goes back and in Chinese tells Knives, as far as I'm concerned, Scott Pilgrim is a halfway decent young man. Maybe you dating a white guy wouldn't be so bad. But this is all said in Chinese. And then the next panel, Knives' friend is like, what was that all about? And Knives is like, man, I don't know, he was speaking Chinese or something. Like, I don't know, she doesn't speak Chinese when the whole thing, it's just, I'm just gonna make myself laugh. This podcast has become you guys talking and me going, hey guys, listen to this. I laugh at myself.
I do love the, like, that's another storyline where Knives is still obsessed with Scott. So she's trying to win him back constantly, but in the end she just basically says, well, I love you, but you don't love me back, so I'm not gonna do anything about it. Like, I can't do anything about it. That's how life works. It's so cool that it's just that development of obsession to, well, too bad, I'm gonna continue living my life, see you later. Like, that was great. I liked it.
Yeah, it's nice having relationships. There's a lot of them in this book. That, like, relationships exist and fall apart, and it's not because, despite all the exes being villains, it's not because they're, like, there's no clear cut, like, oh, who, like, so many movies, it's who will she pick? This guy or this guy? Oh, the one guy is evil and or cares nothing. Like, every romantic comedy has that kind of thing. And it's so annoying. But there's, like, actual development, closure. Like, the word closure is actually a joke.
Yeah.
Like, where Scott's just looking for closure from people and actually throws his arms in the air when he gets it. Like, closure! Which, you know. There's...
So, like, everything about it is just so, I love it. I love everything. Like, the first issue, and, like, first time or second time, I think, Scott and Ramona meet, like, things start moving, and, like, they literally are, like, she undresses to, like, cause they were wet clothes, and Scott comes up, is like, and, you know, they start doing stuff, and Scott's like, I'm uncomfortable, and she's like, no, I don't feel like doing it anyway. Like, it's really cute that, like, acceptance happens, and, like, even stuff, I love the one joke, and Ramona comes in, and Scott's like, oh, you got a haircut, and your hair color's changed. Is that your natural color? And there's a side note, and it says, note, this book is in black and white. It's like, thank you, book. Like, the point is, I presume that her hair color is unnatural, but it's gray. So it's,
Yeah.
it was just,
Yeah,
that was hilarious.
all the Easter eggs are really cool. Like, Scott's band's playing, and then it's like, hey guys, you can play along too. It's just these 3 chords over and over again.
This band
they're awful.
stinks. Yeah, like, they constantly mention that the band stinks. The author mentions that the band stinks. They mention that the band stinks. The band members mention that the band stinks. Everybody does. Which is hilarious.
Their friend who's helping them record the record for 3 books mentions that the band stinks.
Oh, that was my favorite change, story development, weird stuff that happened where Stephen Stills is gay for the guy that they start recording with, which was great. I love that. Cause like, they mention it, they make a joke about it, in 5. Cause they go, she's hanging out with that homosexual or homosexual stills or something. Like, he makes a name and it's all about like that, and you're like, that's kind of rude, you shouldn't use that. But then he's like, no, we made that reference last issue. Like, he's like, I told you last issue this happened, you just weren't paying attention. It's like, damn, it did happen.
Yeah.
Like, I had to look back and go like, oh man, they did. Gosh darn it.
Yeah.
Now I'm the one.
I just love, and it's just so funny because they're people, so it's not like Wallace is extremely over the top and everything, so he's great in his own sense, but then Steven's just like, yeah, I found out I was gay, that sucks, but I like this guy, so it's all good. Like, it's just, he's just so chill about everything and anything, so it's cool that he's still the same character. It's awesome. I like it. Yep. Relationships in books.
Yeah.
Good writing.
It's really fun that everybody kind of finds their niche at the end, too. It's like everybody comes of age, everybody hits that point, and it's like, this is where our lives are going. We've gotten out of that awkward period of growing up, and now we can start to grow up once we figured out the direction. Even young Neil gets called Neil, and it's the happiest day of his life, and it's like, this is the direction my life will go on from now on. I will be known as Neil.
Yeah, there's so many good things. Like I said, I could just keep rambling forever, but I'm not. So I will say one more. I greatly enjoyed at one point. It's my favorite line, and it's stupid, but like when Scott gets a sword to fight Gideon at the end, it's this big epic showdown. Gideon goes behind Envy and just pulls a sword out of her dress that makes the whole thing just like fly apart. And like, yeah, I sewed a sword into Envy's dress. That's just the kind of guy I am. And I'm like, that is one of my favorite lines. I hope that you all found that as amusing as I did. Because,
We did.
Hey, there we go.
Also, I hate to constantly compare this to the movie, but I love the moral at the end. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. Because the moral at the end of the movie was basically Scott loves her enough. That's great. But like the moral at this end was Ramona loves herself enough. Like she has confidence in herself and her self-esteem. And same with Scott, where they accept themselves enough to then defeat Gideon. Which was cool. It was this much more empowering, nice storyline than hopefully you have somebody who loves you or else you're going to be trapped forever with this douchebag. Like, it was cool that they were able to team up. Like, you know, it wasn't just like, Scott needs to defeat these evil exes because Ramona can't. Like, it was, no, Ramona got over Gideon and, you know, like, she didn't actually go back to Gideon where Scott thought she went. She actually just went out on her own to think about things, which is cool. I liked it a lot. I like the characters better in the book than I did in the movie at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, on to final thoughts. Probably.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. It was a really well-written book. It was a really well-drawn book. I'd say that the art style probably gets better going through the book to volume 6, which, I mean, if you don't approve from, like, 600 pages of drawing, then, you know, geez. So, yeah, no, art style's good, writing's great. I read it, I mean, I have no life. I read it all at once in, like, one sitting. But it was, like, partially because I don't have a life and partially because it was really good and I wanted to know what was happening and what, you know, how these relationships went out. So I give this 2 thumbs up.
Okay, we're doing thumbs again?
You complained the one time that I changed it from thumbs.
Is the official.
I know. Well, I'm just
official method.
I'm not saying I'm mad. I'm just making sure we're doing thumbs because I don't want to have to come up with like, you know, talons or something.
Let's take a vote. Or thumbs is the official voting.
That's
ranking
fine,
method.
Fine, but wait,
Yes.
how are we voting? Are we voting with thumbs or with hands? Hold on. I don't know. What are we doing? I mean, I guess everything we. Anyway,
you should let us know, viewer. How do you want us to rate your comic books? Thumbs, talons, numbers, colors, smiley faces?
Oh my gosh, can we do
Who knows?
colors? That would be great.
Let us know and we will rate a comic book in that style, whatever you want us to rate it in.
Oh my gosh, that would be
Do it.
fun. Yes.
This one's mac and cheese.
But right now we're doing
Yeah, we're doing thumbs. Okay, now we got that clarified. Yeah, no, I love this book series. It's great. It's wonderful that it's 6 volumes. They're decently sized volumes too. They're nice nice chunks. I didn't sit and read it all in one sitting, but I had to actually go out and actually buy the individual issues, and it was. I love it. Like we hit most of the main points. It's both touching and funny, compared to a lot of the other things that are out. Like not even just things that we reviewed, but other things that are there in most mainstream comics. That it's not bleak. The color, like the covers are bright and colorful. Everything else around it on the bookshelves are kind of like dark and basically some shade of Batman. So it's really
Shades
nice.
of Batman.
Somebody needs to recommend that we rate in Batmans. Can we do that?
What would we come? Okay, we have to come with a Batman scale. Like somewhere we
Are we
go
going to, like,
from George
movies or,
Clooney
like,
to Joel Schumacher.
Wait, whoa! I put Joel Schumacher and George Clooney. Are we doing directors or people who played Batman?
Yeah, I was gonna say Joel
We need to-
Schumacher's not a Batman.
No.
He ruined Batman.
Well, I like
he had
Batman
some
forever.
good
We're
ones.
off track. Anyway, back to this. Although I am going to work on a Batman scale. Basically,
I think you need to chill out,
I did.
Paul.
Oh my gosh, no, we're not doing Mr. Freeze puns. No, we're on second. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. All right, last one. Anyway, but no, in all seriousness, back to Scott Pilgrim for like the 18th time. I greatly enjoyed it. I like the art style a lot. It definitely shows movement very well, which I greatly appreciate. Tons of Easter eggs. It's definitely written and targeted to our demographic, like
Yeah,
being
like early 20s.
early 20s,
going into adulthood type thing.
yeah, like that you've passed the point of where like you realize, wow, I have to start making decisions in life and relationships and things. So
Wah.
it's
My sentiments exactly.
so yeah. Without further ado, yeah, I'm gonna give it 2 thumbs up. It was a lot of fun. It was nice to have a nice lighthearted read. It was very, very enjoyable.
I hate this book. It's off. No, I'm just
Gonna say there's
now. This is one of the few things that we will all throw our hands up in celebration over.
and,
Compelling art style, good writing, no thumbs. So, yeah,
no,
I hate it.
none.
I had to chop my own thumbs. No, this is a really good book. This is a really, really good book. The storyline is cohesive the entire way through, even though there's so much randomness. The jokes and puns are never old, and they're never trite. They're just really good, and everything hits, and it's short, and it's to the point, and it's there's a lot of real blunt humor, like the Amazon.ca joke in the beginning. Everything's very upfront and very, very well done. Everything's thought out, and everything has a place, and if you miss something, it gets brought back up later, and you have to go back and look at it and go, oh, that's a thing that they did, like, 2 books ago, like the Stephen Stills being gay type of thing.
That was just hilarious.
Yeah.
No,
But there's
he
like a
literally
couple of
he
things.
literally says, "I told you an issue ago." He doesn't say, "I told you like last week." He says, "I told,
Told
you an issue ago."
Yes. Yeah,
Which is great.
It's self-referential and self-aware in the sense of, like, the save points and the extra lives and stuff like that. So, it was a really good read. 2 thumbs up, and this is probably one of the best things that we've read so far.
You know,
via Brian's opinion.
yeah, via
yes.
Brian's opinion, but
Although I will put it up there. It is on the top of I can't make a list right now off the top of my head, but it's on the top.
I am very glad that we reviewed this and agreed because I think this saved our friendship. Because last week got a little bit angry.
Oh, speaking of last week, I don't know how this segues, but next week.
Whoa! In the word
yeah.
week, I guess.
Yeah, I know. In the way that I skip weeks. Next week, 2 weeks from now? I don't know. Whatever.
Time?
The next time we're on this podcast, and I'm talking to you, along with Paul and Brian,
Hello.
we will be
Hi there.
reading Maximum Carnage, Spider-Man Maximum Carnage. So it's a very 90s looking book, and it's a Spider-Man tale.
Super 90s.
So,
I love learning what we're gonna read, like, at the same time. Oh, wait, I discussed this. We're not doing time again. You're right. Sorry.
so yeah, just, heads up next week, Maximum Carnage.
All right. I guess it's time to coast this out here. You can find us using the series of tubes at our Facebook page, where we are As Someone Who Doesn't Read Comics. You can find us on Twitter at I Don't Read Comics. You can send your questions, comments, concerns, problems, and suggestions for a rating scale to idon'treadcomics@gmail.com. You can find the show on our iTunes, on Podomatic, and on YouTube. So feel free, find us, listen to us, give us a 5-star rating. It's really super helpful. Recommend us to people. And, yeah, that's about it for me.
Did we say iTunes?
Yeah.
We did say iTunes.
I did say iTunes.
It took me a long time to get on iTunes. Podomatic's also nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
It sounded like you were begging towards the end. Like, oh yes, I go to iTunes, right? Tell your friends. No, seriously, call your mom. She probably wants to hear from you. It's been a while. It's, not near Christmas or Thanksgiving. Give her a call. Tell her about us.
I'm sure she'll appreciate it.
Yeah. While
you're there, drop a nice Someone Who Doesn't Read Comics kind of name in there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening.
And as always, the book was better.